everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. I'm really excited about our episode today. A few of us had gotten a little preview of what we're going to talk about today, and it was a lot of fun getting to see things before they came to real life. So we're excited about that. But, as usual, I'm Brian Doyle.
I'm Tim McNeil.
And I'm Rob Rogers.
And as I always like to say, because I don't want to waste any time today, nobody's here to hear more about us. They get enough of that. They're here for our guest. And, we want to thank you, Dan, for joining us. For those of you that don't know Dan Adams is the principal over at New England Network Solutions.
The heavy hitter in the industry.
Yeah. The heavy hitter in the industry. Rob is putting some significant praise out there.
There we go. Using 2-syllable words.
But, more importantly, Dan is not only a leader, but he's a leader of others. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit today as well. Where the opportunities live for all of us to improve. So, Dan, thanks for joining us.
Honored to be here, guys. Looking forward to it.
So kind of level set everybody, maybe tell us a little bit of your backstory so we can understand, how you arrived in the world of MSP, what you've accomplished there, and, what the future's bringing. And we'll probably tease out a little of that in a little bit.
Sure. So let's go back to a time where mullets ruled the earth. And,
good time. It's coming back.
I got my start in this industry as an employee at a small company called Novell, and I was involved in the initial porting of NetWare to the Macintosh platform, and then the Unix platforms after that. After that, I moved to Boston to continue my schooling, and got tired of working at another VAR at the point, and started my own IT service company. And that happened in '91. So I've been in the industry for an extremely long time. Been part of CEO leadership groups such as Vistage and other peers there. We've been involved in a couple other peer groups as well that are MSP centric or IT service centric. And currently right now, I'm the chairman. I'm no longer really involved in the day-to-day. I have a phenomenal CEO and a phenomenal president, and we're over 50 people, and we're doing well. So it's now, I had hair at the start. So there's been a few lessons, but
I was already trying to picture you with the mullet.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty. It didn't work out.
So no, that's awesome. And, kudos to you too, because, I think most MSP owners, when you're either looking at the exit or the future, one of the big things is the concept, and you hear it all the time, working on the business, not in the business. And to get to that point of interdependence where you can now go out and be the chairman and kind of, really steer strategy, but not be involved in that day-to-day, that's the nirvana, right? That's the goal we're all going to get to. And it's probably a lot of what we're going to talk about today.
I would hope so. Yeah, because there's definitely a few bumps along the road, but I'm here to say it can happen. And it does happen.
So for the listeners there, just to give you a little bit more of Dan's pedigree, he has just written a book, The Tech Nerd's Guide to Career Success, available out on Amazon. And he's also kind of runs a leadership forum, if you want to call it that. And you can correct me, of course, Dan, up-skilled.com, that really talks about some of the big challenges that leaders seem to be facing and steps you can take to approach that. But you guys don't have to go to those materials. We're going to talk about that right now.
Excellent.
So, Dan, as we were doing our pre-interview, you were talking a little bit about, 3 main areas of concern that MSPs or really leaders of any business fall into and really sabotage their business because of. Maybe we can jump in and talk a little bit about, what those 3 are, what are some of the most common things, and maybe some of you listeners out there will hear some things that you're feeling and take some steps to remedy it.
I think that would be a great thing to do. But I have to get permission. I'm a metaphor junkie, and I'm a football junkie, North American football, to be very clear.
Okay.
So I'd like to use a couple analogies or metaphors, if I can, to help understand the problems and how I'm trying to contribute to the success of every MSP business that I can reach.
So I'll
And-
grant you
Yeah.
metaphors and I'll grant you NFL analogies, but I also know you're right outside of Boston and we don't want to hear anything about Tommy.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
Well, okay,
no
so
Tommy.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was going there too.
Okay, so we'll keep all the metaphors and everything to teams that lose. Is that what the?
Oh, and it starts.
And the
Hey, guys.
and we will post in the show notes what the Patriots record is right at this
Yeah.
moment of recording.
Exactly. And I think we need to make clear winter is coming, or winter has come on New England as far as sports and winning. It's guys at that I believe we've moved on, and you luckily will be spared of
Red Sox,
aggressive,
Yankee.
boisterous Boston sports fans.
No, it's beautiful, but yeah,
We'll leave that to Philadelphia. But so one thing you'll see, and it's interesting, we talk about NFL, the last 15 years or so, the interest in the NFL has grown so large that we've started to get a tremendous amount of media about everything about these businesses. And you start seeing coaches and players, and you see some information that wasn't leaked. Like 20 years ago, we go back, it was just a sports team. We're starting to see some glimpses. And I will not, use New England by name, but let's culturally point out something that I've heard many times, and I'm hearing many coaches now say it. A team cannot win until it first loses how not to lose, or first learns how not to lose, right? Yeah. We've all seen a team that has prodigious talent, great ability, but they commit enough penalties that they can't overcome them. And at the end, they just fail, right? That's the same thing with our businesses. We have a tendency to overlook sometimes what we'll call blocking and tackling, or those basic things that need to be in place, or we're giving away margin. We're hurting client relationship. These little things that we don't focus on at times, but they do cost you tremendously. So the first rule about upskill, and it's a training company really focused on helping not just the owner, but everybody learn how to not commit those penalties that hurt the business. So that's the first order. That's what we drive at. And these are symptoms. If you've experienced these, if you've ever come back and had that feeling of, what were they thinking? Right? I can't believe they did that. Or why did they recommend that? Or how could they have told a client that? Or they spent so much time on the project that we're hemorrhaging money. What were they thinking, right? So if you've ever experienced that, there's probably tied to that there's certain principles or certain things that are penalties that are being caused in your company.
Dan, can you give us an example of, like, how did this come about? This is such a powerful concept. So what happened in your business that made you say, wow, this is one of the very basic things that I need to fix? And can you give us an example for, the audience that they can go, oh yeah, I do that. And this is one of the things I need to fix.
So guys, the watershed moment, or a pinnacle moment for me, I've had several, right, as you go through it. But really, for me, one of the main ones is when I stepped out of the day-to-day 100% and started looking at the organization as far as what was going on. And I realized that the rank and file, everybody who's doing most of the work, really don't understand their role and their impact and success. You've got owners who think they're the ones making the decisions. I'm the one driving. Yet every employee is in charge of implementing their time, and time is our inventory. As a service company, that's a direct inventory. Now, we've all come up, or not all, that's wrong, but most of us come up from an engineering background where I fix the technical problem, and that's my focus. I want to fix the technical problem. Oh, and I've learned I have to be kind to people, right? So fix the technical problem, don't offend people. But beyond that, I started to see that there's two other sections: professionalism, and then the acumen of how all my actions are captured to create business value. if I only have knowledge of those first two areas, be technical and be kind to people, I can hemorrhage professionalism and I can hemorrhage the capitalization of the business value. And so stepping back, I saw that people were doing things that were destroying professionalism and the capitalizing on it. If, in fact, Kaseya did that study that 95% of client churn was caused not by technical things, that's professionalism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the big things Upskill teaches is just that. I've got a full course on 8 full units on what it is to be a professional, the expectations of a professional. The funny thing is whether you realize you're a professional or not, everybody around you has an expectation of what a professional is. So if you think you're an amateur or you're bopping in, everyone else is already judging you here. And so if you think I just have to be technical and be kind, that gap is what causes so many problems. So great question, Rob. It was stepping back and looking at what are the penalties and why are there penalties? And then why are these great people? Because most of us on our team have phenomenal people we love, people we'll die for. In fact, often us as owners care more about them than they care back the other way, which is a subject for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big part. So who's telling them? Who's teaching them this stuff? There's no time for a leader to get to it. Somebody has to be saying, hey guys, this is what we're being measured against, and this is how we get there.
Dan, as I'm hearing you there, I'm kind of thinking about one of the biggest challenges a young, growing MSP, or what I like to refer to, the accidental entrepreneur, the business owner that started that business because some other circumstance in life had them hang out a shingle. And one of the things that I always see is there's really not an adequate training program. Now, you're talking a little bit about soft skills, right? But, in there as well. But we're talking about, because there's not a proper training program, a lot of these guys just don't know what the mission is. And thus that professionalism can't come out. How do you feel about that? Is that a little bit of, kind of where you're going with this as well?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And funny you say that, Brian, because I think, look, in our industry, we know you need tech skills. And then the industry kind of says, well, we need more in tech skills. What are we going to call it? Yeah, it's kind of, you got to get along with people, all the other stuff. We call them soft skills, right? So we've got this idea of it's a binary. You need tech skills and you need soft skills. The funny thing is, guys, is soft skills is a nebulous term. And how do you evaluate your people or train on a nebulous term, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might as well be talking religion at this point, some nebulous structure that none of us can get our arms around. That's not going to help. So one of the things that I've trademarked is the service success quadrant. And what this is it breaks down is you got tech skills and you got people skills. But beyond that, you've got professionalism, which, funny enough, it's not really a soft skill. It's really very clear. Once you quantify what that box is, professionalism. And then the last one, capitalization skills. Mm-hmm. Let me take you through that real quick. Great technical person, but he offends people. Okay, we stop. Great technical person, gets along with people, doesn't communicate, doesn't show up on time, doesn't follow through, doesn't take ownership. All the professionalism quadrants, once again, fail, right? Because I can't trust you. I don't know when you're going to show up. In fact, if you look at our industry, that's what we're fraught with. I couldn't get a hold of them. They never got the stuff done when they said they were going to. I don't know what's going on. They left me in the dark. All those things are professional quadrant, right? So tech skill, get along with people. Now I'm professional. You can count on me. I'm competent. I'm a competent professional. And then the last grid is I've got to do it in a way that creates margin or the business fails. Each one of those is a wicket and a fail point. So the core thing about upskill and part of those errors that I told you about eliminating is recognizing there's 4 distinct areas. The industry has given us tech. We've got a little bit of people stuff, and there's some great consultants out there that teach you to be aware of and compassionate and those things. But these last 2 quadrants, that's what I am focused on, is giving your team the skills and ability to succeed and grow to, and management, the ability to measure, mentor, and evaluate.
So, I mean, these are everything you're saying about text, whether it's communication or just, the professional side, right? Once you put them through the quadrant, how do you get them to improve? Like what is the process to, they're here, you want them there. What are some of the things you implement to bridge that gap?
So phenomenal question. And at the heart of all this, you have to have an individual who wants to improve, right? I can't say there is no training mechanism that I've found out there. Even fear is not going to get people to where you want. So you do have some players that just are not going to do it. So you have to understand as a leader, you can put the information in front of people, but they have to want to do it. Right? I'm not going to track my time. I don't care. I'm not going to document. There's nothing you can do with these people to force them to. So with that being said, the first thing is being able to articulate what those core professional traits need to be. In fact, in my training, we go through the top 10, we let them do self-assessments, and then we train them on the pros and cons and things they can work on. We also help them create their own development plan and work with their manager to create a development plan of which traits they're going to work on. And then it's up to the manager to, in their one-on-ones, be able to, hey, this month we're working on being proactive. This month we're working on making sure that your work ethic, those type of things to drive in. But I wish there was a magic button, but the truth is people have to want to be a professional. In the training, if I may, just real quick, I don't want to give away too much of what it is, but we've all seen that sports player probably at that interview at some point say, I'd like to thank this veteran because they taught me what it is to really be a professional, right? And that's what this is. We can open the door, we can show them what it really takes to be one. But they have to say, you know what? I'm not going to have a short career. I'm going to maximize my career. I'm going to go somewhere. And those are the ones that really become your leaders and move forward.
Right. So I think in this conversation right here, Dan, we started crossing over to number 2 a little bit, right? Which is
yes, sir.
Really increasing the purpose and the capability of the team that's involved. So you've touched a little bit about, that and mentorship being a very core component of that, right? And making sure that the end user, or when I say end user, that's a habitual IT term, but your employee is, understands what their role is. Because I'm even thinking of some things. I've got one employee now that I'm trying to get a little bit more out of, and I'm realizing, no, I'm really at fault here. I haven't defined what they need to do and where are the areas that I want them to take ownership of and come to me when there's that help. So maybe go a little deeper on, how we can help do that.
We'll jump into the second area in a second. Let me address this funny thing about ownership, right? Or be a boss. I want you to own this. I want you to be a boss. Just take charge, step up, pull your socks up. The problem is to your end users or employees or whatever you want to call them, Brian, their interpretation of ownership and step up and what the boss does is not the same as a boss has. When we use that term, act like a boss, right? Or own it. It's more of I'm going to do whatever the heck I want, right? And I'm in charge and I'm going to have, long lunches and I'm a boss. I own this stuff. That's what's going through their minds when we say, I need you to step up and own it. What's going through our mind is, hey, I need you to raise this a very high professional level, and we need to be able to capture some value and margin from it. They're not thinking that when you say, I need you to step up. So our usage of that term of ownership, we have to be very deliberate, very clear on what that result needs to be, or we're setting ourselves up for success or for failure. Let's talk about that second issue. There's a funny thing. So first off, we got to stop the people from hemorrhaging or making the mistakes that are killing our ability to succeed, or for us, destroying margin, destroy relationship, destroy culture. Those kill our bottom line. A lot of us don't have a big bottom line. There's not a lot of room. So that helps us tremendously. The next stage is we need to take every person who makes decisions that influence our success and our outcome, a deeper understanding of the rules of the game we're playing, right? So if we're playing football, let's go back to that. You have 11 players on the field. How many of them need to know the rules to the game? Just the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Or maybe just the coach. The coach can tell the quarterback before the mic cuts out, hey, this is strategy. Okay, run. No. To take advantage, anybody who's making a decision and who's an influencer, and especially if you're a leader manager, you need to know how to play chess and not checkers on the field. So therefore, I can't just say, go out and work hard, go out and do this, because each of us who are interacting with clients, each of us are guiding clients, each of us who have an influence on how things are going need to know the game we're playing so we can make the best decision that helps the business capitalize on that value. So the second rule is strategic level of play always outperforms, an ignorant level of play. And the more strategic players you have on the field who know the game, the greater chance you have.
All right. So
Cool.
that's number 2. Now we're coming up a little bit on time, so I don't want to rush through number 2 to get to number 3, but we probably have to rush through number 2 to get to number 3.
And look, yeah, that's fair. And luckily 3 is not that bad. The last thing I want to say is when you got the people not committing the penalties that are killing you, and you've got people making decisions that are actually taking advantage, they're situationally aware, and they're taking advantage and maximizing the opportunity. Guys, your bottom line jumps.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You're hemorrhaging opportunities and value here and there. When you stop hemorrhaging, there's an automatic bump. When you start taking advantage of the things, there's another automatic bump. So now you've got some wiggle room in your bottom line, right? EBITDA's a little fatter. You're going to have to get a new dress for it so it fits, but it's a good thing. Okay. Now, the last piece then is alignment. And part of this alignment comes because the people are not making the mistakes and they know what it takes to win. So we're no longer playing herd the cats when it comes to management. And that's what so many of us are doing. Steve, why did you do that? Sarah, that was, do more like Sarah. It's like now everybody knows and we can align. And now when we drive, we can have greater success. It is too much to ask an owner to run the business, be the lead engineer, manage all the operational stuff, oversee financials, hiring, all these different things. Oh, and by the way, you've got to train all your people to just the basics on how not to hold and cause a penalty, or how to make, what we're really doing. And hey, in managed service, we need to do it this way. In a time and materials, we do it this way. In a fixed fee, we need to be aware of X, Y, and Z. What do you mean? I just work technical. Right? So we have to have resources that help that. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, right? The Tech Nerd's Guide to Career Success. This is written for the rank and file. This is written for every person in your organization who's a service to better understand what we're really doing. And these 7 lessons take you through it. And it's an entry point to help you be aware of what the real rules are. And for you, the owner, the advantage is you're going to find people that are going to perk up and go, wait, that makes sense. Those are potentially people you pay attention to because they get the bigger picture. And those are the people you kind of check mark and be aware of, that they have more aptitude for leadership. Yeah. Sometimes we default to technical people because we're a technical company and I need you to solve technical problems. But that's really not the core here that's going to move your company forward. As an entrepreneur, you start out all tech. And as you grow in size, the amount of stuff that's not tech expands. That's the problem. When we think that, well, when I was just a solopreneur or there were just 4 of us, we were focused on tech and we're just going to keep scaling that snowball the same way. That's the fallacy. Don't laugh at me, Rob, just because you felt this. But that's the fallacy. The fallacy is that's, it just, no. Those other ancillary areas in the pie of value start scaling. And you, the owner, have to jump on that stuff And if you don't, if you're staying the tech, if you're staying, you're in trouble. So the resources and everything I have are about finding the people that get the big picture or willing to get the big picture and help coach them up so they know the penalties, they know how to make better decisions. So then your leadership and your vision of your company, you can focus on that, and they already know those rules and are working with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a great synopsis there.
Yeah.
I think almost anybody that's a leader or even an employee thinking about where they're not getting the lift up from their team has experienced one of these during their career. And if you're experiencing it now, maybe it's a good opportunity to show your leadership if you're in the being coached to area of it, and go to your managers and say, hey, this is where you're failing me, which is an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. There's a couple courses in development, and one of them is called the Delegator Success course. And it has two parts. It has for the delegator, and then there's a part for the delegatee. Because sometimes, let's be honest, you have to help up. And that's okay. I mean, that's what we do as technical advisors to our clients. We have to help up there to help guide them. Obviously, in our own ranks, that happens as well.
Awesome. So I think we've reached about it. Unfortunately, Dan, I think we could go hours more.
Yeah.
So we'll have to have you come back
This is
again.
good information here.
But unfortunately, we have time limits in life.
Yeah. It's not often that, I'm sitting over here taking furious notes as one of our speakers is talking. But this time I wore out my fingers taking so many notes. This was a good one. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
So with that being said, we want to give you time here, Dan. Any closing thoughts that you want to wrap up with?
My closing thoughts would be look, I've been at the same stages that most of the people that are listening, in the different plateaus as you grow through them. I've had to give up the bad habits that I had to be able to move on to those next plateaus. But at every one of these plateaus, it requires great people. And you've got a lot of great people, but we're making some assumptions on what they understand and what they don't understand. And it's frustrating us, and we're losing years of our business progress and hair. So what I would say is look, Upskill is a great resource to upgrade. I mean, what we say is we take your tech people and we make them service professionals. But if it's not us, find a way to start raising the bar for all your people on what performance, what professionalism, and how to contribute to the business, because those are the things that are hurting you.
Okay. All right. Well, we really appreciate you jumping on here, Dan. For anybody that is looking to get in touch with him, we will be including his LinkedIn profile on the podcast. And also this episode will be up on mspbusinessschool.com and anywhere that you get your podcast information, to include YouTube. Fellas, I really appreciate it today. This was a great one, and I wish everybody the best.
And I want to throw in there, we'll also put a link up to Dan's book, The Tech Nerd's Guide to Career Success, as well. So you can go out there, take a look at it, and go get it, and go visit him at Upskill as well, or up-skill. So you can actually get there.com. Dan, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Honored.